Hello and welcome to this week's usual coffee club. Myself, Robert Grieve, as ever, Bill Leckie, and it's great to see you, Bill. Seems as though I've not seen you for a long time.
I know, since what? Oh, Monday.
Monday
when we had a we're back in base camp in Bella Vita today in Glasgow. We were up in Dundee on Monday for a couple of hours with the magnificent Gordon Strachan. We had you can watch it now.
Still there.
Out there. The video's out there. It's brilliant. It's the first part of a two-part of the Gordon Strachan's up there, special coffee club. And he was brilliant company, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in great form as ever. A wee bit kind of scruffy.
He loves that look.
He admitted that himself.
He loves that beardy look.
He was in great form. Yeah, great to be back here at Bella Vita. A lot going on this week.
Lots going on.
Rangers playing tomorrow night in their latest European tie against Athletic Bilbao. Coming out in a minute. First of all, I was going to come to you, Bill. VAR. Talk to me about VAR. And Alan Muir got a back page story this morning.
We have, yeah.
Alan Muir has been effectively shown the door as one of the main VAR guys at the SFA. Couple of high-profile mistakes in the last few months. The last being the one at Easter Road when Celtic played. The ball was in. He said it was out.
Yeah.
Brendan Rodgers called it guesswork.
Yeah.
It was.
Which is exactly what it was.
Willie Collum agreed with Brendan Rodgers. And here we are. Alan Muir has paid the price.
Yes.
Albeit, I think he maybe accepts that he's maybe better suited for another role when he's kind of mutually agreed to step aside. But a big call when VAR. Talk to me. Where are we at with it? Because clubs are not happy right now.
The clubs are quite right to be not happy, Robert. There's far too many high-profile mistakes. There's far too many mistakes that are costing clubs dearly. If you look at that one, now it's not going to affect the title at the end of the day. But I remember watching that one at the time. I was watching it on TV, and you were at that game, I think, Easter Road. No? I remember watching it on TV, and at the time with the naked eye thinking, you just watch the shape of the player, the way the player is, the boot, the ball, and thinking, I don't think that's out. Now, that's why VAR's there, to go and make sure. But unless you could, we said this at the time, unless you can be absolutely sure that ball's out, you cannot give it the way they gave it.
Yeah.
You've got to go with the benefit of the doubt and say, well, we can't say it's out, therefore it's in, therefore it's a goal. And it just, I find, Robert, that VAR too often creates problems that don't need to be there for itself. You know, the people manning the VAR, they don't have to cause themselves the problems they cause.
Yeah, because the linesman on that occasion thought the ball was in. He said play on.
Yep.
The ball gets cut back from St Johnstone. Dizan Maida sweeps the ball into the net. It's a big goal for Celtic. Celtic ended up losing that game. The goal's chopped off, and when you listen back to the audio, when he picked through it a few days later, you can hear that they're not utterly convinced, but they make a decision.
Yeah.
You know, they make a decision. Alan Muir makes a decision. Now, he, in all fairness to Alan Muir, presumably thinks he has seen that the ball is out of play. He's not making that decision knowingly. I'm not making that decision knowing it's wrong, or he probably doesn't think he's guessing. He believes that ball's out of play, but in fairness to him.
But this is where, under pressure, whether you're a footballer, a linesman, a VAR, a journalist, whatever you do under pressure in the moment, you have to be sure. It can't be, this is what I believe. You know, and VAR was, in particular, was not brought in to say, well, this is what I think happened. You have to be absolutely sure that you're either getting the referee out of a hole, and if not, you're putting the referee in a hole, and that's what they've done there.
Yeah, and it was the same. Alan Muir was the VAR in the League Cup final.
Yep.
There was a penalty or a free kick given outside the box, which, on reflection and people looking at it, it should have been a penalty.
Because it's on the line.
Yeah, it's on the line.
Yeah, so the line is the box.
So when you back them up one after the other in the space of a couple of months, he's under pressure, and he's lost his job.
We sat with Willie Collum a few weeks ago, also still out there. Great interview with Willie, where he was very honest about his role and about having to make big, tough decisions. And this is a big, tough decision. This is we used to say for years and years and years, the referees all look after themselves, the SFA look after themselves. Well, here's a guy in charge, Willie Collum, who's saying, no, this isn't an old pals act, this isn't a brotherhood, this is a place where we have to be accountable for the mistakes we make. And so Alan Muir will go back to refereeing or being a fourth official or whatever he does on any given day. But if Willie's decided, no, I'm sorry, I can't have you in the VAR room, that's a big decision to make. Yeah. And he will have to stand by that decision.
Yeah, albeit he's going to still, I'm led to believe, stay on as a referee's observer ironically. Which is, listen, a guy who's got...
That's a different job.
It's a different job, but yeah, clearly it's not somebody who's going to be under the cosh on a weekly basis on a Saturday, and maybe that'll suit him better. And listen, the guy's got a vast amount of experience. He's been a referee for a long time. Whatever anyone thinks of how he was a referee, he's got a vast amount of experience here that can be passed on. So, yeah, listen, not great for him. If you think about the human aspect of it, this is a guy who... He's been involved in refereeing for a long time now.
Nobody likes to be made accountable and made to look the fall guy for things. Yeah. I think what we need is, and I know they've gone partly down this road, we need people who are absolute specialist VARs. That's their job. That's what they do. That's what they train for all the time.
That's what he was trained for.
Yeah, I know he was. But
it makes sense to someone who was a referee to then get him to do that, because they should have an understanding that you and I don't have.
Absolutely.
So, but that's purely... That's almost not a refereeing issue. That's someone looking at an incident and saying, I can't prove that that's out or that's in, so we stick with it on line. That's quite basic.
Yeah, you have to...
That's not really... You don't have to have been a top referee for
because what you're also saying is, and let's look at the linesman in this one, because I think referees, assistants or linesmen, as we used to call them in old money, have been diminished in their role, with the whole offside thing, don't put your flag up. It's almost as if now they're just there to look in for, is the guy taking a foul throw or not? If the linesman is in line with it and has trained his whole life to see whether the ball's in, it's out, it's offside, it's not offside, and keeps his flag down, give the guy some respect. And in this, it's just been, look, let's forget him, let's forget the referee. But here's what I believe.
But
you can't do that.
Yeah, but I have to tell you, though, there has to be... Fans, I don't think, fully understand the rules on VAR. You see, a ball goes forward, the line, you think that was offside, the linesman keeps his flag down, they play on, and 2 or 3 seconds, 5 seconds later, he puts his flag up and fans berate him.
Yeah.
The linesman's been told
no, I know that, but
to keep his flag
and
down.
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
Not the linesman's fault, and fans...
And that's what I'm saying, we've diminished the role of the referee's assistant. We've diminished the role, we've taken away an awful lot of responsibility, and you start to say, what are they there for? To check people's studs? No, it's the 4th official. So I think if the linesman has kept his flag down, if he's made an obvious mistake, then VAR have to put it right. But there's no obvious mistake there. And so, and again, I say this again, Willie Collum has taken a big decision and said, boof, here's what we do. Now, will it stop mistakes happening?
No, it won't.
It won't. And we have another one in big one that's been overturned from the weekend. Kofi BALMER of Motherwell. Straight red card against Kilmarnock. Now, for anybody that's not seen it, Kofi BALMER is playing a ball down the middle of the park from his own half. His leg swings through and catches Fraser Murray of Kilmarnock where it hurts most. And
it catch on his enough thigh, I think. It's not.
Well, where it hurts second most.
It's not exactly where it hurts.
So Matthew McDermott, not quite sure, goes to VAR. Next thing, the boys, straight red card. Motherwell play 3/4 on more of the game with 10 men. Robert, is that a red card or not?
Yeah, it's a red card for me.
Why?
And I know I'm in a minority with this. I know I'm in a minority with this. I know Motherwell came out with a really strongly worded statement talking about VAR and talking about what we are talking about and the kind of, is it worth it? And I know I'm probably leaving myself wide open here. I think it's a red card. I think he plays that ball and I think he leaves enough on it to know exactly what's happening. I feel, listen.
I know, I get what you're saying. See, here's my take on this, right? And I did a little bit of my call on Monday. A couple of nights earlier at Anfield, James Tarkowski of Everton launches himself into a challenge on Alex. No, just give me 2 seconds.
Go on then.
Launches himself in horizontal, plays the ball, leaves his foot up, and absolutely cements Alexis McAllister. Now, he isn't red carded for that. They then admit the next day it should be red card. Now, Andrew Dallas is VAR at Kilmarnock Motherwell. I think, and whether it's conscious, subconscious, in the back of his head, that's the same thing. It should be a red card. Now, I think Kofi BALMER, it's a very natural swing of the leg. It's not. He's upright. He's in control of himself. Tarkowski was out of control. BALMER's in control. He plays through the ball. Sometimes people get hurt playing football, and it's not a foul. It's not a red card. It's not a booking. There's nothing wrong with what he does.
No, I disagree.
Good.
And again, I know I'm probably in a minority of one here.
But that's allowed.
With it. Yeah, of course it is, and I'm not questioning the guy's character. I'm not saying he tried to cement the boy, the Fraser Murray, I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that he tried to really hurt him. I'm not saying that, but I think he knew what he was doing. And by the way, I was watching the Everton-Liverpool game that night as well, and albeit it is a clear red card, it should have been a red card. As a centre-halves, and something I was watching with my son, and you're saying, when you go into a challenge like that, he almost has to think that the forward's going to do the same thing. Yeah. So there's almost an element of, I need to go in hard here to almost protect myself, and if I go too hard and he gets hurt, it's rather him than me. Sorry, but I genuinely think, and I've spoken to one or two other guys in the game, and can agree with me to a certain extent.
So you're not in a minority of one.
I'm maybe not fully agree with me, but I just think he knew what he was doing.
I think Tarkowski,
I'm surprised it's been overturned.
I think Tarkowski knew what he was doing.
100%.
Because he could have taken his foot back. Gary Neville in the studio that night said, as a defender, I know when you can bring your foot down and you can't. He could have brought his foot down.
That was of so much more force.
I think when you watch BALMER back, there's a very natural swing of his leg, almost like a golf swing. It comes through, and that once you're through into that follow through, you can't stop.
No, I'm not saying
so.
You can.
Anyway, it's been overturned, and Motherwell made a very strong statement. And it's funny because I was at Motherwell Kilmarnock at Fir Park, I think just before Christmas, and they had Dan Casey shown a straight red when he was accused. The referee actually makes a gesture to say they had grabbed Danny Armstrong by the throat. When anybody can see what he's done, there's been a bit of handbags, and he held Danny Armstrong's shirt for a second, and Armstrong pulled away, and next thing, now, even though he went and looked at it that night, the referee on the screen, he still decided he had made the right decision, and it was overturned. And again, that's a match official putting himself in a position that he doesn't need to put himself in. And I feel sorry for Motherwell on this, because there's two games that...
Well, there was one last week in Aberdeen when Andy Halliday got smashed. Kind of behind
so that's
Motherwell.
There's Motherwell. We'll talk later on about the battle for the top six. Motherwell are sitting there with an outside chance of top six. They could be in the top six just now. Yeah. And I'm sure every other team say, well, wait a minute, we've our teams, we've had 2 or 3 this season that have been blatantly wrong. I guess it's Hearts sitting in 6 just now will probably say the same thing. There are too many of these mistakes that were meant to be taken out of football that seem to be higher profile than ever now.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see if anything is actually done about it, because in Motherwell's statement, they question the value that clubs are getting in VAR right now for the money that's been spent. They're effectively paying for VAR. The clubs are effectively paying for it.
6 figures.
Yeah, so that's a manager's budget. If you're a manager and you feel as though you're suffering as a consequence of VAR decisions, and you're thinking, well, why are we paying for this? Because that money could get me a player.
Well, I think earlier on, a few weeks ago, Dundee United said they weren't going to take part in the whole process anymore. They were still involved. They were still paying up for their VAR. Yeah. But I wonder how long it will take for clubs to start to, group together and say, wait a minute, if this is the case, if this is where we are, is it worth £100,000 each out of our budget?
That said, right, so I'll put you on the line here. Should yes or no, should we be getting rid of it? Is it, or because it's human error a lot of times right now.
We need, if we're going to have VAR, it needs to work better than it's working. Right. Once the genie's out of the bottle, I wouldn't have had it in the first place.
Right, okay.
For many reasons. One of the reasons being, we've just talked about Alan Muir, one of the reasons being, I don't think we have enough good match officials on the field as it is without needing another 6 or 12, whatever, in a studio on any weekend. So that's until we train more qualified VAR people, I think we've got a problem there. We're too thin on the ground. I wouldn't have had it, but we've got it now. So we have to use it properly, and we're not using it properly. Yeah. They're not working as the people on the field, the people in the studio, they're not working as a team properly on too many occasions. VAR are getting involved too often when they don't have to get involved, and then not getting involved when they really should get involved. So we have to have more consistency.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would 100% agree with that. But I know from what I've said about the Motherwell decision, I'm probably going to get slaughtered, but there you go. Yeah, I think it was a red card. Sorry, Kofi. Hands up, but anyways.
Kofi, Robert Grieve.
Yeah, it's Kofi Club.
Hey!
Kofi Club.
That's a red card.
That's a straight red. What are we next? I'm off to Ibrox in a couple of hours. Pre-match press conference ahead of Rangers Europa League quarter-final with
Athletic Bilbao.
I think it's going to be a very tough night for Rangers. Hopefully they can produce the kind of performance they have done in this competition so far this season. But if they play like they did against Hibs, St Mirren, Queen's Park, Motherwell,
this is deja vu club, because we had this conversation before they went the first leg in Turkey against Fenerbahce. We had this conversation saying how bad are Rangers, but it wouldn't surprise you if they went to Turkey and there they were they gave their best performance of the season. They produced the result. They will have to go miles above that level against Bilbao.
Well, what I was going to ask you though was, you're right, there's been a deja vu element of this because of Rangers' performances domestically, but there was a change at the weekend, and Barry Ferguson came out post-match, albeit, I think, and we've said it before, Barry Ferguson for me has spoke brilliantly since he's been appointed caretaker manager of Rangers. Speaks from the heart. I was quite surprised he was quite as critical as he was, albeit fully justified in terms of what he said. But to say that 2 or 3 days before Rangers have got this game, to be as that's not a Rangers team. I mean, when he said it, there was a kind of almost an intake of breath in the room.
Nobody can argue that he's right. He is absolutely bang on.
Right.
However, there's 2 things. You're right. Just before a tie, he's hoping he's going to say that and he's going to get the right reaction. I'm not sure in a dressing room where maybe 75% of them are going to be out the door come summer, he's going to get that reaction. We shall see. The other thing for me, Robert, is when it was Philippe Clement who was getting these results, it was the manager's fault. Now Barry's very much, the players aren't listening to me. They're not doing their jobs. And you think, I'm not sure that's entirely, genuous. I'm not entirely sure that's how he should be. I was looking for the opposite of disingenuous there. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure you found it.
No, I didn't. But I've just admitted it's now a word, genuous. I'm not sure that it's the way for him to go. I mean, I have been very impressed, as you have, by the way he's handled himself in front of the media. But it's not in front of the media that you win and lose games. It's in front of your players, and it's how do your players react to what you say, and also can he follow through on saying I'm not scared to make changes? Because who does he have to make the changes with? Yeah. Who does he have?
Oh, the goalkeeper's going is certainly one.
Well,
coming in a minute, but what I will say, is that I think either consciously or subconsciously, Barry knows he's not getting that job.
Okay.
Right. And I think he was kind of.
So let's just get it said.
I want to speak to these guys. I'm going to say what I think. He's been in that dressing room post-match. I think he's watched a diabolical performance, albeit, by the way, Hibs were excellent again. And we've been talking him up. We've both been talking him up so much in the last few months. What a job David Gray has done. However, Barry Ferguson's got in that dressing room post-match. He has filleted them. And I think he's come in to the press room and thought, do you know what? I've got 6 weeks here left. And
I might as well say it.
I might as well say what 50,000 fans out there are thinking. Because
or 3,000 that were left by about 10 minutes to go.
But
that's the problem. And no wonder. No wonder.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't criticise him for that. But anyway, I think he knows he's not getting the job. I say either consciously or subconsciously. And I think he just went, you know what, I'm saying what I think.
They're getting
it. And I can kind of understand where he's coming from with that.
Absolutely. If you were told, by the way, you've got 6 weeks to do this job and you are as steeped in Rangers as he is, and it got to that stage where you went, do you know what, there's nothing more I don't know what else I can do with these guys, and I'm not going to be here next season, it's going to be somebody else's problem. You're quite right, you would come out and say what you had to say. I just feel as if there has to be slightly more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not talk about humility or anything, but the manager has to take. Now he will say it. He does say at some point, "Well, I'll take responsibility for this." But after he's absolutely unloaded on them, so he plainly feels this is a player problem. This is beyond me and Neil McCann and Doddsy and Alan McGregor. This is about them.
But he's literally saying though that he's given them instructions which aren't being followed. So
was Philippe Clement though. Yeah, and it was Clement that carried the can.
But Philippe Clement had a longer time to work with them. They were Philippe Clement's players.
Yes.
I know Barry says that it's his team, but he's inherited he's inherited the team.
No.
I just think he's at the end of his tether. Yeah. Listen, but at the same time, you wonder if they will turn up tomorrow night, and I hope they do. It'd be fantastic if they could get some kind of result to take over to Spain.
Yep.
But as you say, he spoke about making changes. I will make changes. There's only so much you can do.
Exactly.
In terms of, I think they'll go to a back five. I think that's written in stone.
That worked.
Balogun will come in Proper will come in. I suspect either Tavernier might be right centre back if he's not right wing back. I think he maybe right wing back and he'll maybe play Sterling. right centre back. In fact, I think that's what he will do. But there's only kind of so much we can do. I wonder if he maybe brings in one of the kids, if Bailey Rice maybe plays in midfield. That's maybe an option. But there's only so much you can do.
Also, elephant room. I've said on here for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks that probably as much for his own good as anything else, Jack Butland needed taken out of that team. And he saw it again on Saturday. That first goal is just straight through him. And that's not what was happening with Jack Butland a season and a half ago. He was stopping them with his eyes shut. And I think he is becoming a real problem for Rangers.
So what happens, do you think, and I think we suspect we might find out a wee bit more about this later on, does he drop him?
Well, that's the thing.
I'm probably 60-40 right now. I think Liam Kelly will play.
Yeah, I think you could be right as well. But then there's a massive decision for a caretaker manager to make when this is the season. This is the season here. This is the end of the season if they get knocked out by Bilbao. So if you have the confidence in Liam Kelly, then go for it. If you're bringing in Liam Kelly because Jack Butland's not playing well enough, but you're not sure about it.
Yeah, but that's how players get a chance.
Goalkeepers are a different breed, Robert.
Yeah,
you know that.
Ultimately, that's how one player gets a chance ahead of another player. When another player who's in the team isn't performing. Jack Butland has not been performing, albeit, listen, his penalty saves in the last round got Rangers effectively too. Mm-hmm. But who's to say Liam Kelly wouldn't have made those saves? Yeah. I think Jack Butland, and this is why I've always been slightly different from you, I think he does make top saves. I mean, he does make top saves. He makes saves that you think he maybe shouldn't have got that.
Yep.
And I think defensively for the guys in front of him, they probably 90% of the time have confidence in the guy behind them.
Well, look at
him. He's making almost a howler a game.
Look at him in that first leg in Turkey. He's come out and stuck a head on Robin Proper and put him out of the game. He's then should really do better on their goal. But then in the last minute of the game at 3-1, he makes an absolutely phenomenal save down to his right hand. So you're right. He's still a guy who can make great saves. But it's a bit like it's the same conversation you'd have about Cyril Dessers. Cyril Dessers sometimes will put the ball in and then you'll say, my God, that guy's 40 million quid.
Yeah.
And then other times you look at him and say, no, he's 40 pence.
Yeah.
So as a manager, it must drive you absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
But it's easier to drop a centre forward than it is to drop a goalkeeper.
Yeah, but
even though I'm the one that said for a long time that I think he should be out of the team.
100%. I think if he does drop him, as much as I'm saying I'm 60-40 that I think Liam Kelly will play, I think if he does make that decision, I think there will be a Rangers fans if he turn up and I think Rangers fans, I was there at Ibrox on Saturday, they're slaughtering Butland. That's not good enough, and it wasn't good enough.
No.
But I think they would still be very surprised if come an hour before kick-off tomorrow night, they see the team sheet and they go, Liam Kelly's playing. I think they would be surprised, but I think it would be such a big call for Barry Ferguson to make.
Well, here's a question. Do you think at this stage of the season, if he leaves him out tomorrow night and
he's
brings Liam Kelly, he's done? Because he then can't bring him back in at Aberdeen on Sunday or in Bilbao the following week if he doesn't think he's good enough for the first leg.
Unless he kind of explains that way, saying, listen, I just think he needs a couple of weeks off, but then that's then tough on Liam Kelly. If you bring Liam Kelly in, who does all right, and he does pretty well, I mean, you hear managers saying it all the time, they say to players, I'm leaving you out for this weekend, you'll be back in the following week, but the guy who comes in and takes his place does a 9 out of 10, you can't then drop him.
You can.
You know, so I think for me, if Liam Kelly comes into the team, that's Jack Butland's season finished.
So that's where when Barry says, I'm not scared to make changes.
And I don't think he is.
Okay, so let's see in that, because that is the one. That is the call. You can change bodies in midfield. You can go from a 4 to a 5.
He's going to have to change a couple anyway, because Diomande and John Suter are both suspended. So there's 2 changes.
Yeah.
But do you count them in the changes he was going to, when he says I'm going to make changes? There was 2 he has to make.
Yeah.
So you know what else? I'm not sure
where else he goes.
I wonder if he changes a midfield player.
But does that make that much of a difference?
Of course it does. Midfield.
But what I mean is, do they have anybody who's that much better than anyone else?
Well, you might be. You mean you can't just.
No.
If you're going to make changes, then
you have to make. What I'm saying is, I think in that area, everything they have is much of a muchness. I don't think there's anybody that.
Listen, they've not got a superstar sitting in the dressing room who's not playing, and everyone's saying he should be playing.
I think they'll miss Diomande, who I think in Europe does a good job.
Yeah.
But apart from Nico Raskin, I haven't seen anything in midfield where I think, wow, that's a player.
No, that's what I'm saying. They've clearly not got a superstar sitting there waiting in the wings. So you think he should 100% be playing. Nobody's pulling up trees.
No.
In the domestic league to be played. But again, in European games, Rangers have been excellent.
And that's the thing, Robert.
That's
Whoever from. Barry Ferguson made a very good point on Saturday after that game, where he said anybody can get up for a big European game. They're the easy games to get up for. So whoever he plays, if they can't go out there in front of 50,000 people against Bilbao in the quarter-final of the Europa League and pull up trees, then they shouldn't be there.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because a couple of press conferences ago at the training ground, I said that to him, like, is it easy? It's easy to get up for Old Firm games and European games. They went, oh, it's not really. It's like, you still need to, you're still asking a lot. And then Saturday's going, it's easy to get up for these games.
But you must have planted the seed.
Planted the seed. No, but it's true though, it is, isn't it? These guys are, it's a mentality shift.
And
when you go to play Hibs or you're out to play Motherwell, Queen's Park or St Mirren, that's a different mindset.
I think the results prove that. They've beaten Celtic twice in a row. They've won in Turkey against Fenerbahce. They've gone to places like Nice and rolled them over. Yeah. And they're in the last eight of Europe, and yet they've lost Queen's Park, St Mirren, Motherwell.
Yeah, but if you're a group of players, and Barry mentioned this in his post-match about they're not running enough.
Yep.
I'm looking at guys, I'm not literally running enough.
Yep.
These days as a player, you cannot hide.
Barry Bilbao.
There will literally be a sheet of paper but handed to Barry Ferguson after the game saying, there's all the numbers. He can see.
Here's the thing. Arsenal last night against Real Madrid. Arsenal ran 12 kilometres more than Real Madrid.
There you go. That's
it. So if you want to know the difference between a team that's not, you would have imagined Real Madrid were favourites last night. Okay, they lose to two incredible free kicks, but 12 kilometres difference in running. So you're right. That's
basics.
Instantly. You can't. That's not guesswork. No. That's what you get handed at the end of the game.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But Rangers, in fairness, have done that in the European games.
Yeah.
It's a.
But they're going to be against a team in Bilbao who are clever on the ball. They're quick, but my God, they work.
They work, yeah. They work. They're a good team.
They're not fourth top of La Liga for nothing.
No, but at the same time, I think they're not a team that scores a huge amount of goals. I don't know. I think it's going to be a different ball game for Rangers this tomorrow night as it has been in a game so far. But
we wish them luck.
Yeah, and if they can just turn up.
Yeah. Listen,
I'm missing key players.
If they can still be in the tie going to Spain, I think that's the first requisite, isn't it? Yeah. You don't want to be going there and it's just a nice holiday in the Basque Country. Because
effectively, if they go out, their season's done.
Their season is done.
Their season is finished, and Barry Ferguson will be there for another month.
Yeah.
Probably going through the motions. You have players, and we've touched on this before, players in that dressing room, and I think this is actually part of the problem. If you get players in that dressing room now, albeit, and we've mentioned it, there's a takeover coming. I think it's coming sooner rather than later.
Yep. There's no jeopardy for them.
But there's guys sitting in that dressing room who know they're not part of this.
That's what I'm saying. So
there's guys sitting in that dressing room.
There's nothing in it for them.
Fans outside in the stands are excited.
Yeah.
They want this season done and over with. I think they just want it gone, certainly domestically. But they've got an excitement and an expectation of what's coming.
Yep. But these guys don't.
99% of the guys sitting in that dressing room thinking,
totally.
I'm probably not going to be part of this. Yeah. Albeit, by the way, a lot of them will be, because I don't think the new owners, when they come in, can completely wipe the boards and empty an entire squad and bring in a new squad. That isn't happening either. So, but anyway.
The other thing, of course, is as we've reported in the paper, is that with Leeds United now kind of having a wobble at the top of the Championship, it probably affects things in terms of the speed of things moving forward. Because if they end up in the Championship, the rules over dual ownership are more complicated than if they're in the English Premier League.
No.
So do you not think so?
No.
You don't think that's a problem?
No.
Good. There you go.
I think this will be done, as I say, sooner rather than later.
Excellent.
I don't think there's any issues with it, certainly from what I'm hearing. I think the takeover will go through it, and I think it will, we've mentioned it, there's going to be a lot changing at Rangers in the coming months. I don't think Barry Ferguson will be the manager. I said that for day one.
Yeah.
Albeit there was a point where he was making a fist of it in terms of showing his credentials, but I think he maybe knows that it's not going to be him. And we'll maybe talk about him in the future, because I hope that if he does leave Rangers in the summer, does he just go back to the media stuff, or has he shown in the last couple of weeks enough? I wonder if he's got his mojo back for it in terms of going to another job, or trying to get another job. Has he got something to offer there? I think he maybe does.
Okay,
But
that's one to talk about
maybe
moving
we'll
forward.
talk about it. So you want to talk about something else? Go for it.
No, I was going to say if we're saying that domestically anyway, Rangers basically are grinding and winding down towards the end of the season. Lots of other teams are not
gearing up.
This weekend, last one before the split, we'll come to the middle of the table in that 6th place in a minute. Celtic edging closer to edging, and sort of almost like the boat racing the tug of war. They're going over the line backwards slightly, Lost at.
You've been thinking about that? It's quite
No, it's just. It's called wit, Robert.
What?
So on Sunday at McDermott Park, I thought Celtic looked like a team who thought the league was done, especially in the first 5 or 6 minutes when they went a goal behind.
But it's done.
But you can't play like that. Ask Brendan Rodgers.
I don't disagree with you.
You cannot come out.
Is it human nature though? That's my point.
Well,
is it human nature?
But
We're talking about Rangers.
But there is the difference, Robert, between the really top teams and the good teams. Is human nature when you're like, look at Man City when they're at the best, Real Madrid, I'm not saying Celtic are ever going to be on that level, right? But if you want to even think about being at a higher level than you're at, you can't decide that it's done. And the first 5 minutes at McDermott Park, first couple of passes they play a bit looser, doesn't matter. Jeffrey Sloop gives away a free kick, which is cheap. They don't defend the ball into the box, and then suddenly they're up against it. But there's still a feeling of, that's all right, St Johnstone we beat them 7 here last time, this will happen. And the longer the game went on, it wasn't happening. And if we both know, because we both heard them say it, Brendan Rodgers will not accept people dropping their standards.
No.
And to me, once the league is done, whether it's this weekend or whether it's the first one after the split or whenever it is, it's going to be a little bit less pizzazz than Brendan Rodgers and Celtic would have wanted.
No, it's not.
You don't think so?
No, they're champions. They'll win the league. They'll be the same celebrations, the same reaction, the same quotes, the same everything that we always get from Celtic. And by the way, probably rightly so. It's like if Aberdeen end up finishing third.
Yeah, listen,
right,
a league title.
They've such a great start.
Yeah.
They've fallen away. They then recovered a bit and they finished third.
Yeah.
Power to them. If it ends up being Hibs, who had a dreadful start, and they've had a fantastic season.
You don't think Brendan Rodgers will come away for this season thinking that should have been better, that should have been by another 10 points, that should have been won 3 weeks earlier?
He probably will, but he'll not say it.
No, I'm not saying he'll say it, but I'm saying that's the way he'll be feeling.
I don't know. I'm not.
I think he wants more. I think he wants better.
I think he's probably one of these managers who always thinks it could have been points were dropped here and there, it could have been better. But I do think it's human nature when a team is so far in front, when everyone's talking about the league being over, they've got maybe other things they're having to look at.
I would expect that. See if the league had been won 3 weeks ago, say with like 8 games to go, something ridiculous. Then you see that quite a lot when teams win a title early or get promotion early. The results drop off because they know the job's done. But they've not done the job yet. You've got to get over the line first.
No, they haven't.
And I thought they were slack at Easter Road that day when they lost. They were slack in the Old Firm game against Rangers. And they were really slack again on Sunday. And I don't think Rodgers will accept that.
No, I don't think he will accept it.
And he shouldn't accept it.
No, he shouldn't. And I agree with that. And I also think if you're sitting in that dressing room listening to what he had to say, he discounted Callum McGregor, he discounted James Forrest, 2 guys who've been over the course and distance for years, obviously. So he's never going to kind of chuck them under the bus in terms of standards and what they know and about the expectation of playing for a club like Celtic. But if you're someone like Arnie Engels sitting in that dressing room who's come in for a serious amount of money, and personally, in all honesty, when he came in, I thought he's the next superstar. He's going to be the one that they sell for more than any other player. Yeah. And by the way, he might end up being that.
But this season he's gone backwards, hasn't he?
At the minute, he's gone from a world beater to a panel beater.
Yeah.
You know, it's not quite, but
no.
You take my point. What I mean is, if you're sitting in that dressing room,
but he's not the only one.
He's the one that I'm thinking he's talking about me. He's talking about me. When he talks about you can't come in here and coast, you can't come in here and think the job's done. I
think Austin Trusty should be thinking that about himself. I think Jeffrey Sloop should be thinking that about himself. I think Rio Hatate should be thinking that about himself.
Yeah.
I think when he plays Adam Ida should be thinking that about himself. I think there's points where Nicholas Kuhn should be thinking about it himself. Because after having a fantastic first half of the season, I think he's coasted a little bit. So there's probably half a dozen in there who need not so much an arm around the shoulder as a boot up the backside.
Yeah.
And say, look, go back out for the rest of this season, entertain the fans, win by 3 or 4 goals, give us what this team is capable of, and don't limp over the line.
Yeah, yeah. But when all is said and done, I don't think it's going to change how Celtic celebrate or how they.
Of course it won't. Anybody who wins a league, you're still...
Well, you just said it that we would.
I think... No, I meant in terms of what Brendan Rodgers thinks. I think Brendan Rodgers is going to come away from this thinking, great, we won the league, job done. However, might even win the treble, right? Brilliant, job done. However, I think he's going to say, this needs to be better.
Yeah.
We can't do this.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's no doubt whatsoever that Celtic deserve to be champions.
Of course
there's
they
no doubt
do.
whatsoever
Absolutely,
that
100%.
I mean, Rangers have beaten them home and away this season,
but
they're still nowhere near them.
Hasn't changed. And I think both those... Rangers were outstanding in both those games, but I think Celtic dropped their standards enormously.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But St Johnstone done themselves a lot of good with that one at the weekend. They've pulled themselves back into things, and I thought they were excellent from start to finish. But the big one this weekend, top 6.
Top 6?
Top 6. Who's going to be 6th?
Probably the Hearts, I think.
You think?
In all honesty. Hope I'm wrong. I do hope I'm wrong.
As a St Mirren fan, you hope you're wrong.
I'm
So,
wrong.
what if you don't know what's happening? Hearts are at Motherwell. Hearts, a win guarantees Hearts top 6. Anything less, St Mirren beat Ross County, St Mirren will be 6th. If Motherwell beat Hearts and St Mirren don't beat Ross County, Motherwell will be top 6. Now, I saw Hearts against Dundee United on Sunday, and I thought they were poor. I thought they were very one-dimensional. They created a few chances early on that they didn't take. They then lost James Wilson to a red card, which again, I think is a red card. And he's gone in a bit rash with the foot up, and he's caught the boy.
Yeah, I think a red card.
And from then on...
You're right with that one.
Oh, thank you. From then on, you wouldn't have known it was 10 against 11 because they still worked really hard. But Dundee United were always that bit smarter than them. And Sam Dalby is a boy that's going to get them a goal when they need one. And it was, by the way, one of the best headers you'll ever see. So Dundee United now, with that win, 5th place. Delighted for Jim Goodwin, by the way, as I'm sure you are yourself. 8 points clear of 6th. So whoever is 6th has got a massive job to try and get anywhere near Europe. But these 3 teams on Saturday, I mean, Hearts going to Motherwell was a big test of Bottle and... Well, Bottle more than anything else, I think.
Yeah.
Against Motherwell. St Mirren against Ross County is one of these ones that you can think... all St Mirren can do is go and win the game. If they go and win the game and they don't get a top 6, then hands up. If they don't win the game, then they'll be disappointed with themselves.
Yeah, yeah. It's good. It's good that it's all to play for.
Absolutely,
it's good. Yeah, I just when you described it, so I never get a good chance of if they do their own thing, then whatever happens at Fir Park could
but
go
it's
away.
Listen, the only one it's in the hands of Hearts.
Yeah,
they're the ones who have it in the grass. That's it. I've talked to Craig Gordon after the game Sunday.
Sorry.
On you go.
I was just going to say, if Hearts don't finish top 6.
By the way,
Neil Crixley.
With budgets,
Jeez,
and playing staff they have, crowds they have, the expectations they have, and they finished third last season. If they don't finish top 6, they miss out on another derby. They miss out on Rangers and Celtic games, and I think it's a dreadful return
100%.
from Hearts, having emptied a manager early in the season and taking a real chance on Neil Crixley. What Hearts fans will tell you is, and whether they're right or whether they're a bit over the top on it, he hasn't won a big game yet.
Yeah.
A derby, a game against Rangers or Celtic,
Well,
even this one, Dundee United.
This is a big game.
And this would be a massive game for him to win, get in the top 6 and say, right, can we all just calm down now and push on?
Well, we have a Hearts supporting fan who's in Augusta this week, and I tell you what, if they don't do the job done this weekend, he will be hearing from me.
But even if it's Motherwell who get there.
I don't care.
Okay.
If there's no Hearts, he's getting it. Anyway, that's us for this week. So we're back at Bella Vita. We've been looked after royally.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Well, royally. Look at this.
Beautiful. Custard donuts, custard dough rings, lemon meringue pie, little funky Empire biscuit type things, and your favourite Rocky Roads.
Like a Rocky Road.
So they'll go back to the office with Robert as usual, but the Rocky Roads will just be diverted off into his pocket.
No, they won't.
Are you still no carbs?
No carbs before miles. That's us for this week's Coffee Club. Thanks as ever for joining us. As we said at the start, there's the Gordon Strachan interview, Blather, we had a few days ago. It's still there. Go and have a look at it. It's good fun. He was in great form. We wish Rangers well in their European game tomorrow night. Hopefully, they can get a result that keeps it alive and maybe even just get through. That would be fantastic for them. And until next week, thanks for now.